Ocansey, 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news up here at Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. You can also watch us on Facebook and Instagram at 3FM927 as we're streaming live at the moment. Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition, New Patriotic Party presidential election to go into a runoff according to latest poll by Global Info Analytics. Meanwhile, the governing New Patriotic Party is courting support of the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service to handle its November 4 flag bearer elections without fear or favor. Stay with us. We have details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, had a response to the NPP's expectations on November 4 from the Ghana Police Service. We get all of that with some reactions as well here on Hot Edition. Also, the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, Dr. Kwabena Donko, insists former Energy Minister Boakye Jackson cannot escape blame for the unlawful termination of power deal, which has resulted in a $140 million judgment debt. Well, there's a response from Boakye Jackson himself. Stay with us. We're getting to that here on Hot Edition. And remember, Dr. Kwabena Donko, the pro-East Member of Parliament, has been on the path of also highlighting how his constituency has been impacted by the increasing water levels in the white and the red voters that goes through his constituency. We'll touch a bit on that here on Hot Edition while we still continue our focus on the impact of the flooding situation in Lower Volta as a result of the excess spillage from the Akonsombo and the Pong dams. And we here at Media Journal, we're gearing up to set off tomorrow to also distribute the relief items to these persons, thousands of them who have been impacted by this unfortunate situation there in the Lower Volta and parts of the Greater Accra and also the Bono regions. And the kidney patients cast doubt about government's kidney disease treatment package. As they say, 1 year, that's a time frame for a role, is unacceptable. They say that 19 of the members have died in the last 5 months. We'll hear from them shortly. We have the latest in business, sports and entertainment coming up over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Let's get into the details now as the New Patriotic Party's presidential primaries will go into a runoff. That's according to the latest poll by Global Info Analytics. Now, the survey, which is the final before the November 4 presidential primary, show Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is leading with some 43.5% of votes. His closest contender or challenger, Kennedy Ohinia-Japan, Member of Parliament for the Asin Central constituency, is second with 23.5%. Now, a former Mampong Member of Parliament, Francis Adainimo, is in that third position of the poll by Global Info Analytics with 0.4% of the votes, while the former Agric Minister, Dr. Osefri Akoto, comes fourth with 0.3%. Now, 14% of the delegates, according to the poll, declined to disclose who they will vote for. So this is delegate-specific polls that the Global Info Analytics have just conducted and put out the results. We're going to be joined shortly by Musa Dankwa, who is the head of Global Info Analytics, give us a bit more detail into how things are playing out and the methodology, especially that they used for this delegate-specific poll 7 days ahead of that crucial November 4 vote of the NPP to elect their flag bearer. My colleague Noble Crosby sat through the press briefing by the election committee of the New Patriotic Party earlier today. Now, Noble, it's good to have you as always. Now, what did Reverend Michael Quay talk about with specific issues relating to that earlier indication of the measures they have put in place.
Right, Alfred, I'll talk to you briefly about what the NPP said when they met the Inspector General of Police today, and it was all towards the preparations ahead of the primaries, the NPP presidential primaries that is happening on November 4. So essentially, they are all saying that they are ready. The IGP is saying that they are more than ready. The NPP is also saying that they would support the Electoral Commission, support the police service with whatever they need to ensure a smooth running of the entire election process. So essentially, the stakeholders, the NPP, the Inspector General of Police, the police service who are going to provide security for the elections, and the Electoral Commission who are going to conduct the election themselves, they all say that they are ready and geared up for the November 4 presidential primaries of the NPP.
Super. Now, we have details of the Global Info Analytics, that's a poll, the delegate-specific poll, which show that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is leading with somewhat 43.5%
Yes.
of vote. Let's get into it.
Yes, Alfred. So this is the last poll by Global Info Analytics ahead of the NPP presidential primaries, the final poll of NPP delegates before the November 4, 2023 primaries. And it is showing that Dr. Bawumia is leading the race with 43.5% of the votes. His closest contender, Kennedy Japan, is in second place with 23.5%. So you see the difference we're looking at, 43.5 and then 23.5, close to 20% we're seeing there. And Francis Dynamo is third with 0.4%, and Dr. Usofri Akoto is fourth with 0.3%. A lot of this is coming as a surprise to many of the supporters of Dr. Usofri Akoto, who were also thinking that it was making some inroads. Maybe this is attributable to the kind of campaign that he's running. Remember that we've not really seen him at the forefront of the campaigning, going into, the parties, meeting delegates and all of that. He's running a quiet campaign. People are calling it a door-to-door campaign. So he is coming in fourth according to the latest poll by Global Info Analytics. Now, the catch is that 14% of the delegates, they declined to disclose who they will vote for, even though they have made up their decision. So these 14% delegates, they could either vote for Dr. Bawumia, who is already leading with 43.5%, or vote for Kennedy Japan, who is in second place with 23.5%. If any of them, if this 14% tilt towards any of the candidates, then the numbers we're looking at will be very different on the final day of the elections. Now, this is also another thing we need to look at.
Great.
Apart from those who decided not to disclose, although they have made the decision, there are those who were undecided yet, the 18%. They have not made a decision. So if you put the 14% with the 18.3%, you're looking at a number that is close to 35, and that
which will make
the
a big
dynamics
difference
of the elections on November 4. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And Noble, stay with me. And Musa Dankwa, who is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, is joining us on the telephone for a bit more on this. I thank you, Mr. Dankwa, for joining us here on Hot Edition. Now, from what I gather, this is a delegate-specific poll, is it not?
Yes, correct.
And
Only of the party.
So all the respondents to this poll are delegates of the NPP?
Correct.
How many delegates were sampled in this poll?
4,311 delegates.
4,311. Every time when you put it out already, the reaction from the likes of Dr. Usofri Akoto's camp is that they're dealing with over 200,000 delegates who are going to cast their ballot on November 4. So if you sample 4,000, a little over 4,300, it may not be representative enough. How do you respond to that?
If you look at the methodology that we put up there, we're saying that sample size of 4,311 gives us 99% confidence and 1.9% margin of error. So with the exception of those number of people who said they don't tell us, and I will not disclose, the poll would have been that margin of error of 1.9%. It's statistics. It's not, we don't have to poll everybody to see what the outcome could be.
See, and those who decline to to give you exact details of who they're going to vote for? What were the reasons?
They wouldn't give us reasons, but from what we deduce, some of them are probably doing so for fear of intimidation. And especially for those who refuse to disclose. So they said they have decided that they won't tell us. So those ones are tricky to really put them in that box. But generally, they are anti-establishment kind of delegates. And they wouldn't want to disclose who they tend to vote to us. The concern should be really among those who said they were undecided. And that is where the campaign must work hard to win those numbers.
And it's interesting, actually, because I was going to ask you about the characteristic or the makeup of the 14% delegates who said they're not going to disclose who they vote for. And you say that they are anti-establishment candidates. So if we're going by if we're going by the narrative, what this means is that these are delegates, the 14% are delegates.
For Kennedy.
Great. And they are very, very likely not to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yes, but we're not ruling out him winning a portion of that. But we think majority of them will vote for Kennedy.
Okay.
They were previously Alan voters who were hiding.
Right.
Alan would give the race. Some of them went to Kennedy directly, and others stayed with the undisclosed column. Which means they will make their choices known to us on the election day.
Now, did you also sample that Alan population? And what was the outcome? Did majority of them decide to be anti-establishment, or want to swing on the other side?
Not in this poll. In this poll, we didn't do that. But the poll before this one, we polled, and we realized that about a third of Alan supporters were voting for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and another 35% were voting for Kennedy, and another huge number, 35, were about saying that they were undecided. So Alan guys were up for grabs. Looking at what the race, how the race is panning out, they are likely to gravitate towards Kennedy.
So there's a clear case of a possible runoff. I mean, that is if this, all things being equal, this 14% of the delegates who declined to disclose who they would vote for actually vote according to their anti-establishment sentiments.
And it will be very unlikely to be a runoff because of the performance of the other two candidates. If there was a third or fourth candidate doing well, then that would drag the race into runoff. But because Akoto and Dynamo are not doing very well, below 1%, the race is unlikely to be going into runoff. It will be one touch for anyone who's going to win.
It's going to be one touch
for anyone who wins, yes.
I see. Interesting. And because I'm looking at if for instance, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, your poll of these delegates is up with some 43.5%, and Kennedy Japan follows with 23.5%. If we're adding the entire 14% to 23.5%, it still may not be enough.
That would be too optimistic to give everything to Kennedy. Because there will be others who may be Bawumia but may not tell you or may not have disclosed it. So you cannot entirely add everything to Kennedy. But we believe large number of them will go to Kennedy, but not entirely 100%.
I see. But with this, some 8 days ahead before November 4, can anything change the minds of the people who responded a certain way?
If the 18% who are undecided are still undecided, then you can still have the room to convince them. But I think most of them would have made up their minds, just that they are probably waiting to see what happens. We believe that they made up their minds, but they won't say directly.
Dankwa, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it as always. Musa Dankwa is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, giving us a bit more detail into the latest poll, which is delegate specific. So, Noble, is beginning to, clear up now what we're seeing in terms of the statistics. So, it appears that 14% of delegates, according to the poll, who declined to disclose who they would vote for, have been described by Musa Dankwa as a lot more anti-establishment. So,
candidate.
You see a lot more tilting towards Kennedy Japan.
Towards Kennedy Japan
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. But even if you add those 14% to that of Canadian Japan and not to Dr. Bawumia's vote margins, it will still be more towards Dr. Bawumia than to Kennedy Ohinia Japan. If you're adding the 14% to the 25% of Kennedy Ohinia Japan, Kennedy Ohinia Japan is still getting less than 40%. But Dr. Bawumia, according to the poll, now has 43%. Even if you look in the swing regions, in the research that Global Info Analytics has done, the swing regions, we're talking about the Greater Accra Central Region and the Volta region. In the Greater Accra, Dr. Bawumia reduces a little to 32.3%, but Kennedy Ohinia Japan appreciates his vote margins by to 27.3%. The others, Francis Adynamo now has 0.9, and also Freya Kuto now has 0.2. The undecided in the swing regions, Alfred, 22.9, and that is way more than what we got to know in the deliberate regions of any of the candidates.
22.9.
22.9 in the swing regions, and they could vote anywhere. They have not made up their decision. So this is the time that any of their candidates, any of the 4 candidates can make inroads into these constituencies and try to convince them. They can cause huge change, huge damage to any of the political careers of these 4 aspirants. If you look at the Akan regions, Alfred, the expectation would be that Kennedy Japan would do well in the Akan regions. So Ahafo, the Bono regions, the Eastern regions, the Western North regions, the Akan regions. These are the numbers we're looking at in the Akan regions. Dr. Bawumia still leads in the Akan regions with 37.2%, but he is followed very closely by Kennedy Ohinia Japan, who has 31.6%. The other two, 0.5 for Dynamo and then 0.4 for Owusu Efrie Akuto. The not disclosed in the Akan regions, 13.1. That could go to any of the candidates. And if you're following from what Musa Dankwa is saying, that if these are anti-establishment candidates, then in the Akan regions, we're seeing them tilting more towards Kennedy Japan than Dr. Bawumia. There are those who are also undecided, and that could also change a lot of the dynamics. In the northern regions, expectedly, Dr. Bawumia's lead is huge, 74.8%, and then Canadian Japan has just 10.6%. So clearly, if you read the report that Musa Dankwa has put across, if you just go through his executive summary, it is telling you that though Canadian Japan is likely to win the central and the Ashanti regions, with Greater Accra up for grab because it is a swing region, his poor showing in the northeast, the upper east, and the upper west region, the northern part of the country, because he's just getting just about 10% of the votes, while Dr. Bawumia is garnering over 70%, 74.8 and 10.6%. That will not be able to make up for the ground that Canadian Japan will lose in the northern part of the country. So his poor showing in the northern part of the country is likely to cost him the primaries, with Dr. Bawumia likely to emerge as the winner of the MPP primaries. This is what Musa Dankwa is saying. But just like he's saying that a lot of things could change even before the day of the elections. Delegates, they are a very hard group of people to predict, and then just like the popular saying is that you need to fear delegates. There's also an analysis of the Volta region, the Oti region. It's a comprehensive report that Musa Dankwa has done. There's also some research on the president's job approval. Mind you, these are delegates, Alfred. So 79% of them approve of the president's work so far. These are MPP delegates. It is in sharp contrast with the earlier research that Musa Dankwa Global Info Analytics did on the president's job rating that was not targeted at delegates. Only 15% disapprove in this latest, and then 6% of them do not have an opinion. So this is what we're looking at, Alfred. A lot of things could happen on the day of the elections, but with how it is looking like, Dr. Bawumia seems to be in the lead with all the margins we're looking at here from Global Info Analytics, Alfred.
There's a fundamental question about the point that I put to Musa earlier about the next 7 days, how the next 7 days is going to look like, because yes, all of this is based on the balance of probability.
Exactly.
And that's why I asked the question about the methodology that you use, because if you look at the reactions from the likes of Dr. Freya Koto's camp, they are questioning the impact of this particular survey, and especially the sample size that he used, a little over 4,300.
When the delegates
were talking
more.
about over 200,000. And so they, based on the raw numbers, always raise objections to these poll and survey outcomes, because they believe that if the sample size could be a little bigger, then it would tell a certain story. But if you also look at Musa Dankwa's own explanation, he comes from the statistics perspective. And so based on the statistical rules that govern such polls, you can understand why he's using that sample
clearly,
size.
That's why there is a sample size. It will be difficult to get, almost impossible to get all the over 200,000 delegates and speak with them and find out what the patterns of the elections are. So these are, that is why this is statistics. This will be a projection, and these, if you look at the methodology, they were sampled from various levels, educational levels, varied educational levels, male, female population. The regional sample allocations has also been indicated. The Northeast, all the 16 regions of the country are represented in the demographics that Musa Dankwa used in his research. But of course, it is expected that if such findings or such research work come out into the public domain and they do not favor you, of course, you're likely to raise some objections about it. But if you go deep into the research, granted that it is scientific, so you could also use your various scientific means to disprove or approve these findings. But just like you were saying, Alfred, between now and November 4th, just about the 7 days left for the presidential primaries of the election, although a lot of delegates have made up their minds already, and that you get that from speaking with pollsters, other pollsters if you like, or speaking with some other political scientists, that delegates, way before the elections, they've made up their mind because it's an internal election of the party. But the difference will be those who are undecided and those who have decided not to disclose who they are voting for. They could be the kingmakers. And if you look at the numbers, Alfred, for the MPP primaries, undecided 18.3% do not know who to vote for. So it means these four candidates, they could have some last-minute engagements with them, if you like, depending on where it goes, whether they're listening to message or what will be able to convince them, then they'll make a decision. There are those who have also decided not to disclose who they are voting for to the researchers, and that is 14%. If you come down and you look in the swing regions, those that are likely to make who king or make who win in whichever election, the undecided is also huge, 22.9%, and the not disclosed 16.2%. So these candidates in the last days of the elections touch base with these constituencies and try to sell your message to them. If they will listen to your message, then they could help you become flag bearer of the NPP.
So quite clear, great stuff there that you put out, and about Crosby and thank you so much. Two things that stand out: fear delegates, last days are dangerous. We spoke to some of the delegates in the Ashanti region, and they told us what would inform their decision-making process. It's all about the money. Take a listen.
At least, my last born, or Maria Montessori.
We receive a lot of benefits. Personally, my livelihood has improved because of the opportunities I get for being a delegate. At least, I can now send my kids to the best of schools. I even own more than one car.
Party,
MPP would be Casuaja. My yes, can be different from say back
Life is hard. I am unable to even eat fufu twice a day because of financial constraint. So for me, whoever pays the highest has my vote, because we don't see them after votes. No one is ready to sacrifice for the country.
Because
as delegates, we are getting a lot of goodies, especially during election period like this. This would have been our cocoa season, but the incumbent MP for Subin has replaced our names with his chronics as delegates.
Well, so those are some NPP delegates in the Ashanti region. Quite clear what would motivate and influence their decision-making process ahead of November 4. It's all about the money and who is able to come up with the highest. And they're quite clear about you had the woman who spoke on the last says they would eat and die. And that's what's going to happen. But let's stay with the NPP because the governing UPTOTE party has asked the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service to handle its November 4 flag bearer elections without fear or favor. The party believes the exercise is a crucial one that ought to be handled with care. Chairman of the Elections Committee, Professor Aaron Michael Koyi, today led a team to meet the police and the Electoral Commission. Listen to him as he spoke at the said meeting.
We are authorizing you as a party to take absolute control of all the processes that you regulate during a normal election in this republic. We have made a number of guidelines. It's a matter of common consent. In fact, we've worked out the dynamics in such a way that Dr. Bosman and Co., they want to know that we also have our own IPAC, and we call it Intra-Party Advisory Committee. This time not inter-party, but intra-party. And we are working together. So there's nothing new to any of the gentlemen who are seated here now representing the relevant candidates in our election. We are saying this to assure you that the regulations which they have all signed to, and which we are going to make available to the police, already available to the EC, is going to be the blueprint of the process. Anyone who disregards this on that day should be dealt with according to law. We want to establish that this country is a lawful nation.
And that was Professor Aaron Michael Quay there. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, on his part, promised an overdose of police personnel for the NPP.
We want to assure you that on the 4th, we are going to give you an overdose of security. And it will be excellent. It will be awesome. All what we require from you is to support us for each and every one of us to play its of its role. And then with that, we'll be able to ensure that the police will do their work, the EC will do their work, and all the people who will be voting across the country will also come out freely, willingly to vote. And all the agents will also do what they're supposed to do for all of us to finish that process and for all of us to be winners at the level of the party, at the level of the country, and also at the level of the continent. It is on this note that we want to, on behalf of my colleagues, once again welcome you and for us to have this fruitful discussion. And thereafter, we'll take it forward. And we know it will be successful. So let's work together towards that. I thank you very much.
Well, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare is Inspector General of Police. Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission, Samuel Tete, also expressed readiness of the Electoral Commission for November 4.
We are almost close to the date, and the Commission is not leaving any stone unturned. We are doing all what we could to make the election successful. We also lead with other stakeholders. We know how the police has actually been working. We know how the Elections Committee has also been working very hard. We plead with all stakeholders to join the Commission to have a very successful elections come November 4th.
You have there Samuel Tete, Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission. Away from the NPP, former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donko insists that a former Energy Minister Boakye Jackson cannot escape blame for the $140 million judgment debt the nation must pay. This comes in the wake of Boakye Jackson arguing that the decision to terminate the power deal, which resulted in the debt, was one taken by the government and not him as an individual. The nation risks losing key assets in the United Kingdom as Ghana Power Generation Company, that's GPGC parent company, Trafigura, is seeking to enforce the judgment debt there. Now, Dr. Kwabena Donkor believes there must be a probe into the matter.
Because he signed the letter. He signed the letter of termination. Any minister has responsibility for what he signs. The committee members are not here to tell us what he informed. In any case, advice has always never been binding. Advice remains advice. You take the ultimate decision. It is your responsibility.
I mean, for now, we know that our properties are being attached. They are trying to sell it. We are running around trying to find money. And from the arbitration decision, it's clear that our officials did not act in the interest of the nation. Do you think they should be doing something to them beyond we requiring them to just explain what they had done?
First of all, I call for 2 inquiries. One at the level of the presidency. The president might institute an internal inquiry to unravel what led to this. You see, cabinet is advisory to the president. Then at the level of the legislature, since the decision to terminate was taken by the executive arm of government, it is the legislature that has oversight responsibility over the executive. We also have to set up an inquiry to find out who was culpable and why this happened and why we've been burdened with over $140 million liability. Mind you, $140 million, I'm not even talking about the 170 plus cost, $140 million can provide at the minimum 4 district hospitals, at the minimum. And so if we have been burdened with this, we must know why and who was responsible in terms of who did not carry out his duties properly. Somebody must have done something wrong. It could be procedural, but we need to know. We need to unravel all the facts. I am prepared to subject myself to a parliamentary inquiry to justify that power purchase, emergency power purchase agreement we signed. As I stated earlier on, of all the emergency power purchase agreement, this one was the cheapest in terms of tariff. It was the only one that did not require a guarantee on the part of government, and it had the shortest tenure of 4 years. I also read somewhere in our case before the arbitration panel that the equipment was not new. Yes. Yes, there's nowhere in this contract that we said the equipment was new. And that was why in the contract, we had a duty to go and inspect the equipment. And indeed, a team led by Mr. Francis Jatta, who was then the technical advisor to the minister, led a team to go and inspect the plant before it was shipped to Ghana. And this was not the only plant that was not brand new. There were 2 of them. Remember, this is emergency power. The AXA plant was also not new. The same Francis Jatta, technical advisor, led another team to go and inspect that plant. That plant has been in operation since then. The 5-year emergency power agreement contract we signed lapsed, and the current government has extended it by a further 10 years. So that is not an issue.
Well, so that's the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, there. Now, after this, the former Energy Minister, Boakye Jako, who Dr. Kwabena Donkor argues quite strongly that he should answer questions about this decision that has led to this judgment debt. Boakye Jako is described as unfortunate and irresponsible. So some of the comments made by Dr. Kwabena Donkor with regards to the $140 million judgment debt the country has been hit with. Now, this was after the former power minister said Parliament must probe all the officials who were involved in the decision to terminate the power purchase agreement with the Ghana Power Generation Company, including the then Energy Minister. According to Dr. Kwabena Donkor, the termination of the GPGC contract made no sense commercially and legally. Here's what's happened. Boakye Jacko says he is disappointed with the assertions by the former power minister, who should, in his view, know better. Boakye Jacko stressed that as the energy minister, neither him nor his ministry had the authority to cancel or terminate a contract of such nature. He's quoted as saying an interministerial committee was set up under the chair of the Energy Commission to review the fiscal and legal implications of the power purchase agreement executed by the Electricity Company of Ghana. The 18-member committee was chaired by Dr. Alfred Ocansey, Executive Secretary of the Energy Commission. Its report was submitted on 5th April 2019 under reference number ECMOE/17. The report was subsequently put before Cabinet for consideration and action. Cabinet directed that the report be further reviewed by the Attorney General, and this was done. Cabinet subsequently gave its approval for the recommendation of the report to be implemented. So Boakye Jacko has issued a statement, part of which I just read to you. You can find on 3news.com, responding quite clearly to, and in fact, putting out his position on this matter. And that's what he's been arguing on exactly what the situation is. But we'll be joined by an energy analyst shortly to have a quick conversation on this matter and who has to answer questions and be held responsible. Because as we speak, we're still grappling with the situation of a possible $140 million judgment debt that the nation must pay, and how the said company intends to carry out that judgment debt, which could possibly see Ghana losing its High Commission building in the UK, and that's generated a lot of conversation already. But while we get through to the energy analyst shortly, kidney disease patients have cast doubt about government's ability to provide a kidney disease treatment package on the National Health Insurance Scheme within a year. According to the group, who have described the estimated time as unacceptable, 19 of their members have died in the last 5 months since the outpatient dialysis center at Kolebu was closed down. Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, in an interview with 3FM yesterday, announced it could take up to a year to complete processes to determine the treatment package for patients suffering from the kidney diseases.
We have what we call actuarial studies. Every package that we add to the scheme, we do some studies to see whether it will weigh the scheme down or we can survive. And the study shouldn't take more than 60 days, maximum 90 days, which is 3 months. We also have to do stakeholder engagements. You have to meet with the kidney dialysis centers. You have to meet with patients and all that. So within some 6 months to maximum 12 months, there should be a sustainable program to support kidney care in Ghana. It's not about paying more. It's about how to be efficient with what we receive, and also how to discuss other ways of funding. Because when you pay more, the assumption would be that those who are paying should necessarily pay more. But there are many ways of bringing in some inflows into the fund, and those are the ways that we have to discuss. I think that what we are saying is not traditionally to just go and say that a 2.5% VAT NHI levy, go to 3.5. That's not what we are saying. But there are innovative ways to improve on the inflows that comes to the National Health Insurance Scheme. It must be dialogue. We should engage in discussions that will improve. The most important thing is that we have to improve on our collections. How to improve, one person has not got the answer. And by the way, the answers are available. We only have to sit and talk.
Well, that's Bernard Okoboy there. But for the dialysis patients, the announcement smacks of disregard for their health. Convener of the dialysis patients, Kojo Bafo Ahinkra, laments how more of the patients could lose their lives before that 1 year period that the NHIS is talking about.
You know, we understand where Mr. Okoboy is coming from. But as I'm talking to you, when a year, the dialysis cabin have been closed down to the outpatient people. As of now, we've lost 19 people, all because they are not able to finance, go to ask for the private dialysis because of the cost involved. Yes, we understand there's a lot of thinking have to go through. There are a lot of things have to go through. We understand. But a year and above, when will they finish with this? So we are pleading with them. The government should do something immediately for us. Immediately. I'm talking to you now. So the cabin is close to the outpatient. The Kolebu situation. So close. Normally about 250 people. We don't have access to the place. The cabin was close to the outpatient on May 21st or 22nd, one of these days. It was closed to the outpatient. So from that time up to now, we've lost 19 people. Most of them don't have money to go to the private, or they don't even go to a proper dialysis center to get a proper clearance that they need in their system. Now, we may understand that the cabin has been open to the inpatient, which they reduce the price to the old price that they are paying. They should allow us with the outpatient. As I'm talking to you now, one of my people is on admission, all because he was not going to proper dialysis center. He's on admission now at Kolebu. Are they waiting for all of us to come to on admission? So please, what are they talking about? Well, we are waiting for a year. You and I know Ghana. A year is going to take about 5 years. I'm not sure they can do this within a year. But for the meantime, something should be done about the Kolebu. The place should be open. People are dying.
You heard some of the kidney persons living with kidney diseases lamenting about the 1 year period that the National Health Insurance Authority is saying that it will take to be able to put together a package to cover persons living with kidney diseases under the National Health Insurance Scheme. While we're at it, let's go straight to the Accra High Court that has set aside the injunction that was placed on the funeral rites of the late Gamanya. And the family for the late Nade Omaidro III, if you recall, on the 25th of October, secured an injunction from the same court halting the planned final funeral and burial for the Queen Mother of the Gan State. The family had contended they were not consulted by the Gan Traditional Council about the arrangement for the funeral. The court subsequently granted the relief, and barely 24 hours later, that same court has set aside its earlier ruling. Justice Patrick Baye today in court ruled that the application, or in fact the applicants, failed to paint the true picture of the issues when they first filed their injunction application. He said, upon reading the affidavit filed by the applicant and deposed to by the first defendant and applicant, he was of the view that the order of interim injunction granted on 25th of October was made in error. Now, spokesperson for the funeral committee, lawyer Nia Igwetu, former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, and immediate past Ghana's commissioner to Canada, also has been addressing the media on the latest development and the way forward.
No, we've worked. We've had people coming to sign book of condolence. We've spent so much time, money, expense, traveling, going about informing dignitaries, prominent chiefs, politicians to come and mourn with us. All these people are holding themselves in readiness to come, only for that bombshell to be released. So we had to go to court today to deal with the matter once and for all. And that is why I've been chosen to speak with you. We were in court this morning. We argued against the injunction that was granted. We asked that it be set aside. And at the end of the day, we had this order made, which we want to share with you. Upon reading the affidavit filed by the applicants and deposed to by the first defendant applicant, and upon hearing equal to a square, counsel for defendants applicants, I am of the view that the order of interim injunction granted on 25th October 2023 was made in error. The applicants failed to give the court the true state of affairs. In fairness to the parties, therefore, the order of interim injunction granted on 25th October 2023 is hereby set aside. Any party desirous of proceeding may come on notice to the other party for a proper evaluation of the evidence from both sides. Now, the importance of this is that the order that people are misinterpreting has been set aside. So there's no order anymore, anywhere, which anybody should even worry his head trying to interpret. What we have here is that the order has been set aside, and we have every right to proceed and do what we told you we were doing. So this is the position so far. On Saturday, we believe that those prominent chiefs who have been invited may come with their entourage. Some of them may want to display. So we are calling upon you to give them every coverage that matters.
As near equal to there is private legal practitioner, former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. Let's get into business now. And Michael Ogbodu is standing by with the latest in business news.
Hello, welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Michael Obodu. Now, coming up, Abosokai Spare Parts Dealers Association to proceed with planned demonstration against GRA as they deny bribery allegations to halt the exercise. We have the details coming up shortly. Please stay. Well, thank you for staying with us. My name is Michael Obodu. Straight into our top story, as the Abosokai Spare Parts Dealers Association has indicated its intent to proceed with a planned industrial action from November 1 to 3rd of this year to raise concerns over the implementation of the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA's VAT compliance and invigilation exercise. The leadership of the association had earlier given the government a 2-week ultimatum to review the implementation of the tax policy while accusing GRA staff of intimidation and harassment. Techiado is head of communications for the association.
Against our fundamental human rights. They have taxed 2 officers, 1 supervisor to come and station in our shops. That's the reason we are saying no, we are not going to allow that. Because we can't even tax them or sack them. If we do so, it's against the laws. So the only thing we can do is we'll close down our shops and demonstrate against the authority. That's the reason why we are this sit-down strike and this demonstration. And again, there's a rumors going around that we've called off our strike and this sit-down. We have never done so, and we are still pursuing what is needful. We want to promote and protect our businesses. These rumors that we've taken money incentive for the state, I deny it categorically that it's never true. We never done that, and you can never compromise our business with anything, any form of juicy. It will never happen.
You heard the head of communications of the Abosokai Spare Parts Dealers Association, Techiado. Now, government has been urged to use part of the recent World Bank funding support to establish Agriculture Development Disaster Management Agency. The Bretton Woods institution earmarked some $40 million as food systems resilience program for farmers affected by the recent dam spillages. Speaking to 3 Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Anthony Morrison, said there's a need for data-driven infrastructure for affected farmers.
The $40 million set aside for the post-effect from the agriculture sector. Definitely, we don't expect all that money to go into the current problem. For instance, look at Ghana's budgetary allocation for the agriculture sector. We are only looking at $55 million. That's the whole country. So we can't possibly be putting $40 million into just Volta region, Eastern, and the Oti region alone. Some part of that money should be set aside for a fund and the setting up of a more specialized agriculture management, disaster management agency. The point here is that when that is set up, then we can tap into the global fund and look at how we can also have a sustainable fund, continue to mitigate or to provide long-term sustainable solutions so that these situations don't exist.
Anthony Morrison is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Now, finally, in an effort to boost local tourism and foster rural development, the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture has called on the corporate organizations and educational institutions to take advantage of the packages being offered by his ministry to tour the country. Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Awal made this appeal during the launch of the Lakeside Estates Marine Park development as part of its 20th anniversary.
This year, our domestic storage drive, we are targeting 1.2 million people across Ghana to visit places. We are therefore encouraging students and corporate tourism. We are preparing packages for workers, private and public sector workers, so they go around the country. When you go around the country, you are not only learning Italian culture, you're also contributing to economic growth and stimulating the rural economy and creating unity among our people. So I want to commend you for your 20th anniversary and to show you that my office will partner you. Come quickly and see what we can do for you in terms of financial support and strategy. But the next 20 years is even more important than the last 20 years. How do I achieve sustainable growth? How do you employ people? How do you contribute to making Ghana the most attractive destination in West Africa?
Well, that was the voice of Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Awal, who is the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. My name is Michael Obudu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports.
Good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. We're going to start off from European football, where the UEFA Europa League is currently in session, and we're going to go through some of the results so far in the competition. Now, currently, Marseille are leading AEK by 1-0, and Olympiacos are leading West Ham by 2-0. Remember, Mohamed Kudus is playing for West Ham at the moment. Now let's look through the fixtures for this evening. AS Roma will be facing Slavia Prague. Brighton will face Ajax. Leverkusen will face Karabakh. Liverpool will face Toulouse. Panathinaikos will face Rennes. Royal Union SG will face Lask. Tiraspol will face Servette in the UEFA Europa League for tonight. Now, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp had high praise for Toulouse ahead of their encounter this evening.
Toulouse deserves all our respect. It's a really interesting, I would say, story, becoming 13th in the league, but winning the French Cup. And this year, a really young team, a really talented team, a football team. When you see them playing, it's really nice. They have a clear idea. But we have to see how they exactly show up here. We don't know. Got a point against PSG, which is obviously a massive one, and so we have to make sure that we are really ready. And then it's about us. That's very important.
That was Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp ahead of the game against Toulouse later tonight in the Europa League. Now, Brighton head coach Roberto De Zerbi believes he has enough to beat Ajax tonight.
Solimarch is injury, Danny Welbeck as well, but we are enough to play to win the game.
Just on Solly, do you know, have you got any more detail on the injury?
Unfortunately, it's a very, very tough injury, very, very important injury. We will lose him for a long time, for a long period, and for Welbeck the same.
Both long term?
Yeah.
That was Brighton manager Roberto De Zerbi. Now, Newcastle and Italy midfielder Sandro Tonali has been banned for 10 months by the Italian Football Federation for breaching betting rules. The 23-year-old will not be eligible to play again until August and will be unavailable to feature at Euro 2024 next summer should Italy qualify for the competition. Now let's move on to African Football League, where earlier today Esperance Tunis defeated Mazembe by 3-0 to book a place in the semis. Now they won 3-1 on aggregates, and Wydad will face Enyimba later tonight. Remember, Wydad are currently leading by 1-0 on aggregate. In women's football, the Black Queens went through their final training session today ahead of the 2024 Olympic qualifier against Benin. They are currently in the second round, and that game we played on Friday at 4 p.m. The winner of the two legs will face Zambia in round 3 of qualification to the 2024 Olympic Games. Remember, only 2 slots are available for African teams. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name once again is Billy Shen, and up next is entertainment with Akofa standing by.
We're still tuned in to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It's now time for the entertainment news segment powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Forever hitmaker Jackie has a new body of work out. She sat down with 3 Entertainment's Anita Akufu to shed some light on it and what fans should expect from her moving forward.
Right, I've been working on my album because I'm about to drop my debut album very soon. So I've been doing collaborating with artists, with producers, and then working on different sounds. And I'm also about to drop my next single, my official single of the year.
Okay, but Scar has done so well. I mean, it's the last one we heard from you, but from your point of view as an artist, how well has it done?
It has done good, just as I was expecting it to. Also because that was the best drill song I ever dropped. There was a different side of Jackie that I knew my fans would also love and enjoy. So I did good. It's a lot of people's favorite song, and everybody didn't expect to see me or hear me on a drill sound. So Scar did really good, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, you're dropping a new one on the 27th.
Yes.
What's the title? I mean, is it also going to be about like drill? What is the vibe going to be like?
Okay, so the song that is dropping on Friday is called Rent Free. It's an exclusive. It's called Rent Free. I would say that's the official song because Scar dropped with Songbird. So this is the first song of the year from Jackie. And the genre is Afrobeats. This one is something that everybody can dance to. The lyrics is easygoing. It's a love song. And trust me, the song will live in your head rent free.
But did you feature anyone?
Yeah. Okay, so this one is not, it's just me. It wasn't with any feature, but I'm working on doing and dropping a lot of collaborations in the coming year.
Okay, but exclusively, I mean, for TV3 and 3 Entertainment, you said you're working on your debut album.
Yeah.
Are we going to have any major big artists on that album? Just give us a hint.
I'm still recording the songs for the project, and yes, I can say that you should expect some surprises on the album, and every song on it is going to be a lot of people's personal favorite, and that is why it has taken so long, because I'm trying to bring out the very best for my people.
And that ends it for the entertainment news segment here on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thank you for your time. Join me at 8 p.m. as I come your way with Wine Song. Keep your dial locked on 3FM 92.7. The 3FM Drive continues.